Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Happy Friday. I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo, and on today's report, the accused killer in the Buffalo grocery store massacre is facing federal hate and firearm charges. We're going to have more on that story for you. Meanwhile, new details emerge in Brittany Griner's case, as her lawyer says she had a doctor's letter recommending she use the medical cannabis found in her luggage. We're going to have that story. Then, scientists are searching for the remains of victims of the 1921 Tulsa race massacre, encouraging those who think they might be a descendant to submit a DNA sample.
Plus, ladies, if you're craving that BBL look, our wellness expert has the answer to your prayers. And comedian and actor Jeremy Piven stops by for a look at this week's trending topics with a side eye. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Two months after the Buffalo grocery store massacre that took the lives of 10 people in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo, the accused killer is facing federal hate and firearm charges. Peyton Gintren was indicted on 14 violations of the Matthew Shepard and the James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. Now, both acts were named after two men who were victims of hate crimes. Gintren also faces 13 firearm offenses in connection with the mass killing. Now, the indictments came the same day city leaders and members of the community near the Tops grocery store held a prayer vigil and a moment of silence to honor the victims.
Now, this day, we bless this building. We pray that this building will be the beacon of light in our community that shows that we are Buffalo strong.
And today is the reopening day for the Tops grocery store. Community activists say the newly remodeled store reopening helps the black community with a few good choices to buy healthy food. There's mixed reaction about the opening of the store, as you would expect. Some people are happy. Some people are really having a hard time going back into the store. But the store has been completely remodeled. It has more emergency evacuation alarm systems. It has additional emergency exits. About 50 of the 90 employees returned back to the store. And outside of the store, they're offering counseling for people in the neighborhood, and they're offering a lifetime counseling for some of the employees in the store. And so I know that some people are just happy to have a grocery store back in their neighborhood, because, as I said before, we've said many times it was a food desert in that area. And so when that tragedy happened, it did do a really huge disservice to that community.
Mm-hmm. You know, they have been letting people see the photos inside of the remodeled Tops grocery store and paying homage to some of the lives that were lost. And, you know, like you said, this was the only grocery store for miles for some people. And so to some, having a grocery store is a good thing. But, you know, have never been to this grocery store, of course, and I've never had to deal with only having one grocery store in an area, so I can't speak for those people, but just my heart mourns for those who have to relive this moment. Like we said, going back into it, but some people don't have an option. Some people can't just get up and move to another place with more opportunities. It's just not equal like that for everybody. So to those who have to go into the store, I would probably just have to pray going into it, because my heart will be so extremely heavy.
Yeah, you know, some of those people live in that area, unfortunate, maybe even just to drive somewhere else because of gas prices, but they're calling it bittersweet, you know, because it's a necessity in their neighborhood, but at the same time, it's such a dark cloud to still hang over. They will hang over there forever, we know that. And the conversation I had with people when we talked the last couple of days, they still can't believe this man's going to have his day in court, being that so many people of color running away from police officers are being shot and killed, and this man who had killed 10 people still had a gun in his hand and yet was still able to survive that. Not saying they should have did something different, but if you could do that for him, we have to look at ourselves and say, what are we doing wrong? There's so many people of color are dying in a whole different scenario.
Right. Yeah. You know, and also to just really quick, Mimi, knowing that there are better protocols for just in the event that something like this happens, that does have to be a sigh of relief, knowing that there are better ways to escape in case something like this ever happens again. A lawyer for WNBA star Brittany Griner says the player had a doctor's letter recommending she use medical cannabis to treat pain that she was dealing with. The lawyer submitted the letter to the judge in Griner's Russian drug trial last week. Griner pled guilty, acknowledging she had cannabis oil in her luggage when she was arrested at a Moscow airport back in February. Yesterday, Griner's Russian teammates and the club's general manager took to the stand to testify they had been exemplary player, and she's also been a great person. In the 6 seasons that she's played in Russia, as well as playing as a WNBA star. The WNBA star, she faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted of transporting drugs. This is a breakthrough, I believe, in this case. You know, a part of me didn't want to think that a WNBA star, a celebrity, a well-known face would go to Moscow, to Russia, and just have this in your yes, thank you, would just go overseas, right, and do something that you would believe to be illegal. You've been here before, you've traveled to Russia many times, right? Why would you risk everything, right? So this is, to me, a breakthrough, because this could really change the narrative, because the narrative right now is she brought transporting drugs, right? And so this is like, hey, this was a medical reason that I had this. This could change the trajectory of this entire case right now if this is indeed proven to be a good improvement in the case.
Yeah, I think when we look back at why and when she was arrested, it happened right around the start of the war, when they knew they were going to invade Ukraine. So, there's always been a cloud of judgment as to why they stopped her. Someone who had been there for 7 years, had been playing in the WNBA, someone who had been playing in the Russian league many years. So they knew her very, very well. So, but the note is from the Arizona Department of Health. That is an official note. And so you're right. Hopefully it does make some sort of difference. But the next hearing is scheduled for July 26th. Her detention has been extended until December 20th. But the trial is expected to be over at the end of the month or the beginning of August. So we'll see what happens. They can't do anything with a possible prisoner swap until the trial is over. And so once that is over, we'll be able to see if we can move forward with that.
Yeah, she's been there for over 140 days, so we know there's some mental stress, probably some physical as well. She was denied request to go to home detention a few months ago, so we really want to get her home, and some people just feel like this is a politics situation, and that's why they're playing chess with America. So we'll see if that's the case, but we're hoping that what that breaking news came through about why she had that on her, that it will allow her to come home soon. All right, the MoveOn.org petition to impeach Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas continues to gain steam. It has attracted more than 1.2 million signatures. The petition organizers cite Thomas' vote to overturn Roe v. Wade to the reason for his impeachment. It also mentions his wife, Jenny Thomas, and her role to overturn the November 2020 presidential election. Only one U.S. Supreme Court justice has been impeached in history. That was Justice Samuel Chase in 1804. The House of Representatives impeached him, but the Senate refused to convict him the next year.
And the House of Representatives is giving the mayor of Washington, D.C. authority over the city's National Guard. The House Wednesday adopted an amendment to the annual defense spending bill that gives Mayor Muriel Bowser control over the Guard. The president currently oversees the force in the district, but it became an issue during the January 6th attack. The commanding general of the D.C. National Guard told Congress that former President Trump's Defense Department took roughly 3 hours to authorize the force. Now, when it was authorized, it did help in the insurrection. The National Defense Authorization Act now goes before the Senate for passage.
Vice President Kamala Harris is encouraging her Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated sisters to take action ahead of the midterm elections in November. Harris told sorors that Democrats needed more U.S. Democrats, senators, to protect a woman's right to choose. The sorority, our sorority, is celebrating its 70th Boule celebration that took place in Orlando yesterday. After her speech, the vice president held a roundtable discussion on reproductive rights with Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra and representatives of Planned Parenthood.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is calling out a far-right troll who harassed her on the U.S. Capitol steps on Wednesday.
See, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you, AOC. You're my favorite. She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. You look very beautiful in that dress. You look very sexy. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina. I love it. My favorite, AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC. Look how sexy she looks in that dress.
AOC posted a tweet saying she had a deeply disgusting incident happen to her on the Capitol steps. Alex Stein, who is a far-right activist and comedian, posted the video first. The Congresswoman is criticizing Capitol Hill police for not being around to protect her. AOC says she was walking over to deck Stein because no one else was there to protect her. This is disgusting in so many ways. It's a workplace, and you can't even feel safe with that. And luckily, he just showed up with his phone and not something else to get that close to her. So it's very disrespectful in so many ways. And man, I wish I was on the steps when he was saying that.
You think, I don't think that it was that far that she was walking, where the area where she was walking to, and you think, okay, you know what, I'll be fine. I could just walk, like it's not that far. And then, of course, when you decide to take that upon yourself, when no one else is going to help you, something sick like this happens. And so at first when I saw this video, I was wondering, did she hear? Because it seemed as if she was like, didn't even understand what he said and just came over for the selfie. But I think that she knew who he was, and also just was like, I'm just going to be the bigger person in this situation. But nothing like this should ever happen to a person of her stature.
Yeah, very, very disrespectful. And I just think that with everything that we've seen happening on the Capitol, there should be like a barricade or some sort of, just streamlined line that members of Congress go through so they don't have to be subject to something like that. So. All right, the owners of an Applebee's franchise in Florida will pay $100,000 to a black gay employee who was told to ignore racial slurs directed at her. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission says the franchise owners failed to take action after two co-workers hurled racial and homophobic slurs at Jibril Teague. Now, Teague, who worked as a cook, says one of the employees regularly wore Confederate flag paraphernalia while working. A spokesperson for the restaurant says the company is committed to maintaining a safe and inclusive environment for all.
Long lines are back at food banks around the nation as families are overwhelmed by inflation. High gas prices and grocery bills have people looking for help to feed their families. It's reminiscent of what Americans saw early in the pandemic after millions of Americans lost their jobs because of job shutdowns. Food banks, which saw relief after the pandemic shutdowns, are struggling once again to get people food in their homes. But federal programs that went into effect early in the pandemic to help food banks distribute food are running out of money.
The city of Detroit is agreeing to pay a black man $7.5 million after he served 25 years for a murder he did not commit. Desmond Ricks was released from prison in 2017, and thanks to gun experts and students at the University of Michigan, Ricks was convicted of shooting his friend outside a restaurant in 1992. Cops said the murder weapon was a gun owned by Ricks' mother, but in 2016, the Innocence Project Clinic at the University of Michigan got a judge to reopen the case. They were able to prove the bullets taken from the victim did not resemble photos of bullets examined by a defense expert before Rick's trial. A judge granted Ricks a new trial, but prosecutors decided to drop the case. Here's a man that's 56 years old who simply said, "I'm not greedy, I'm thankful." You can't put a price on freedom after being behind bars for 25 years, but we don't have to remind our soulmates, this is an ongoing problem. There was, we make up 13% of this country, yet close to 50% of black men or black people trying to get exonerated. So listen to that number, just look at that.
The numbers don't add up, Romeo. The numbers do not add up when it comes to black incarceration. And I'm just really happy that we're talking about this story here on Fox Soul's Black Report.
Absolutely. All right, well, people who believe they may be descendants of victims of the Tulsa Race Massacre are being encouraged to submit DNA samples. Scientists are trying to identify the remains of the victims of the 1921 massacre. Hundreds of African Americans were killed by mobs of white people during the attacks. Forensic scientists working on the remains say they have received an outpouring of requests from local residents to provide genetic material. Now, 36 coffins containing the remains of possible victims have been discovered over the last 2 years. An estimated 100,000 homes of black people were burned down during the massacre.
The father of Jacob Blake, the Wisconsin man shot in the back by cops in 2020, was hospitalized last week after he says cops in Ohio assaulted him during a protest. Blake Sr. says he suffered a seizure after an altercation with cops on Wednesday. Blake was in Akron, Ohio, protesting the police killing of Jalen Walker. The young black man shot more than 60 times, also by cops. Blake Sr. travels around the country to protest police brutality cases against African Americans. Blake is a part of the police accountability group called Families United. The aunt of Breonna Taylor, Bianca Austin, was also arrested during that protest, and she also belongs to Family United as well.
The family of a Houston area black man wants answers to why their loved one was killed by police officers. Harris County Sheriff investigators say they were called to a Dollar General store for a shoplifting incident. Investigators say Roderick Brooks had allegedly assaulted a store clerk. They said when deputies got there, Brooks got into a fight with the deputy and allegedly tried to get a sergeant's taser out of his hand. The deputy shot Brooks in the neck, but the Brooks family attorney says the shooting was unnecessary. They say Brooks was shocked by the taser and incapacitated as the deputy beat him up before shooting Brooks in the neck. The Harris County District Attorney's Office is investigating the shooting.
And the Oregon Court of Appeals is reversing a murder conviction of a black man after the court discovered prosecutors dismissed 2 black jurors because of their race. Darian McWoods was found guilty in 2018 of the murder of his 15-month-old daughter. The jury had no black members. Now, during the trial, the defendant's attorney fought to keep the black jurors on the panel. She cited the 1986 U.S. Supreme Court decision prohibiting the exclusion of prospective jurors by race. Now, McWoods, his daughter died of methadone poisoning. Prosecutors say McWoods either gave it to the child or she took it by accident. They say McWoods often mixed the drugs with Capri Suns.
An Ohio man who spent decades, 3 decades to be specifically, behind bars for a crime he did not commit was declared wrongfully imprisoned this week. Charles Jackson spent 28 years in prison for a 1991 slaying in Cleveland. Jackson was arrested and charged in a murder and an attempted murder based on statements from the alleged victim and a drug dealer. No evidence ever tied to Jackson to the crime. He was released from prison in 2018. Now he can collect money from the state for being wrongfully convicted. The Ohio Court of Claims will pay him $52,000 per year that he was locked up, which totals more than $4 million, $1.4 million. Jackson says the money is going to help support him and his loved ones. It will never compensate for the years, however, that he lost while he was in prison.
A woman sentenced to life in prison when she was 17 years old for killing a man who sexually abused and trafficked her is being granted clemency. California Governor Gavin Newsom pardoned Sarah Cruzen earlier this month. She spent 18 years in prison for the 1994 murder. Now, Cruzen was paroled in 2013. Newsom says Cruzen has transformed her life and dedicated to community service. Cruzen was 11 years old when George Howard lured her into his car and raped her.